Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Roles, Responsibilities, and Cybersecurity Testing Tools. I am today's host. My name is Elisa. Thank you for joining. I have just a few housekeeping items to go over before we get started. All lines have been muted to reduce background noise. If you experience any technical difficulties, please let us know by using the chat panel below. We will be taking questions throughout the presentation and will answer them during the last 10 to 15 minutes of today's session. After today's event, you will be receiving an email with the slides from today's presentation and the recording. At LBMC Technology Solutions, our aim is to be your team for everything tech. If you think of a technology challenge or need, please drop it in the chat, the Q&A, or send us an email at info@lbmctech.com. Now, please join me in welcoming today's distinguished speaker, Scott Augenbaum. Scott is a retired FBI supervisory special agent with over 30 years of experience in cybercrime prevention. He's a best-selling author, a trusted voice in cybersecurity, and the founder of Cybersecure Mindset, where he helps individuals and businesses protect themselves from digital threats without needing a technical background. Scott has appeared on the Dr. Phil Show, Fox and Friends, and MSNBC, and has delivered over 1,200 presentations worldwide. His book, The Secret to Cybersecurity, has helped thousands take control of their digital safety. We're honored to have Scott with us today, and Scott, I'll now turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Do you see the big smile on my face? That is because I am retired from the FBI. Just going to go over a little bit of housekeeping over here. I am so glad that everyone could join me. I have a long history with my friends at LBMC. I'm a retired FBI agent and supervisor. I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee. LBMC Technology Solutions, they supported me so much in my mission with the FBI, and I am so excited to be here today. I'm just going to flip over a couple of these slides over here. And again, thank you very much for joining me. If you would have told me some 37 years ago that I'd be retired from the FBI, living in Nashville, Tennessee, and wrote a book about cybersecurity, I would have said, no way, not my life at all. One of the number one question I get all the time is, Scott, do you miss the FBI? And I go, no, really quickly, and everyone gets blown away. Let's get the record straight. I had an amazing 30-year career with the FBI. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I would. I loved it. I know you might be reading a lot of things about the FBI in the paper and stuff. I retired out of Nashville in 2018 when we, the FBI, were in the news once a month for good things. And if you have any tough questions, bring it on. My 91-year-old mother calls me up all the time saying, Scott, what's the deal with the FBI? And my mother was very instrumental in my career. She actually filled out an application for me to be a file clerk with the FBI in 1988. And if it wasn't for her, I never would have got this job. And she kids around with me to this day. She's a typical sarcastic New York mother, somewhere between Jerry Seinfeld's mom and George Costanza. And she goes, Scott, if it wasn't for me, you'd be hanging out with your pothead friends in New York City. And I'm like, Mom, I'm retired. I got back together with the old gang. And I'm just kidding. So if you have any tough questions, bring it on. I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell my mom. Let it go. I get a great pension. So what do I do right now? I teach individuals and organizations how to avoid becoming the next cybercrime victim. And that's why I'm so happy to be teaming up with LBMC Technology Solutions, just to give you a number of tricks and tips to help you stay safe in this crazy environment. Let me just tell you my background. I started in 1988 in New York City, but I became an agent in 1995, and my first office of assignment was Syracuse, New York. And if you'd asked me to define the role of an FBI agent in 1995, it was so easy and simple to do. bad people did bad things to good people. And I worked with state and local cops, and we put bad guys in jail. What a fun and exciting job for this. At the time, I was a 27-year-old kid from Brooklyn, New York. They gave me a gun, a badge, a bulletproof vest, car with lights and sirens. It was such a fun and simple job to explain. Like I said, bad people did bad things to good people. We put them in jail. I got brought into the world of cybercrime because in 1997, I was the only agent in the office with advanced computer skills. Hit me up in the chat. I'd like to make this interactive. Anyone want to tell me what are advanced computer skills in 1997? Gives me an opportunity to get my thoughts together because I was the only one, and the FBI became part. I don't see anyone responding to me. I don't know if you can hear me. What do you think was advanced computer skills in 1997? Going once, going twice? To me, advanced computer skills were I was the only one who knew how to use America. And so I got brought into the world of cybersecurity, and it wasn't the cool, fun, sexy job to have. We were chasing thrill seekers. We were chasing amateurs. Like I said, it wasn't the cool, sexy job to have. But after the events of September 11th, that changed the FBI forever. And preventing terrorists was the number one priority. Fighting counterintelligence was number two. And cybercrime was the number three priority for the FBI. People always say, Scott, how come the government doesn't do any more about this? But let's remember, in 1998, National Infrastructure Protection Center was created. This was before the Department of Homeland Security. We were talking about foreign entities getting access to critical infrastructure. And what's part of critical infrastructure? Finance, banking, energy sector, even healthcare. And this is 1998. In 2003, the FBI forms a cyber division because of the events of September 11th to track down the and prevent cybercrime victimization. Well, it went to headquarters in 2003 to be part of this movement. And remember, we're talking almost 22 years ago, 23 years ago, all my friends made fun of me. They told me I was committing career suicide because the cybercrime problem was going to go away by 2006 and be solved by a lot of really smart people in technology. Let me ask you, how's that working for us? It really hasn't, because the cybercrime problem is out of control. I spent 11 years in Nashville, Tennessee, dealing with some of the biggest cybercrime victimizations that I've seen impacting large organizations. And that's really the focus of what we're talking about today. It's the importance of planning and preparedness to reduce your chances of becoming the next cybercrime victim. Dealt with thousands of victims during my time. I retired from the FBI on my 50th birthday, and it was really difficult time for me. But I realized that I can do more outside of the FBI than I could inside, because I realized that most of the victimizations, not all, but most of them easily could be prevented. I love this topic so much that I even wrote a book called The Secret to Cybersecurity. And when we wrote the book, really did have a cool. This was nothing more than what I thought was a cool title. And people ask me all the time, what is the secret to cybersecurity? It's that most cybercrime victimizations could easily be prevented if my end users were only armed with a couple of key pieces of information. That's it. And everyone here is going to get an audio digital version of my book. It's on a platform. It's on learning management systems. So you're going to get the opportunity to listen to the book, to read the book, and I'm adding video content to this. This is part of my passion project, which is teaching people how to be safe. And if you're looking to read a good book by an FBI agent who saved the day, put a lot of bad guys in jail, I'm not your guy. Unfortunately, in this book, I'm not the hero in the story. What I've done is I've taken what I've learned during my decades with the FBI and put it into a simple, practical guide to help keep you and your family safe. I'm very big on that. If I can teach you how to keep your family safe, because so many of us are in the sandwich phase where we're dealing with our senior parents, we're dealing with our kids. If I can teach you how to keep safe, you're good at your home life safe. You're going to understand how to deal with it in business. And what I do is I'm a natural storyteller. And I really use stories to make some kind of examples. And unfortunately, I keep getting new stories every single day. And just a typical day at an organization occurs that I get brought in. And I get called all the time right now to talk to victims. I feel, unfortunately, in the past 8 years of my retirement, I think I've dealt with more victimizations outside of the FBI. And when people call me, I'm hospice. There's really nothing more that I could do. But I just dealt with a situation here recently at an organization in Nashville. And this individual, their company just lost $400,000. And the first thing I asked them is, did you have two-factor authentication on your email? And they're like, no, we didn't. And the bad guys were able to get access to their email account. And they read through all the emails, they saw where they begged, and they orchestrated wire transfer. At this point in time, the bad guys take over the email. And I'm going to ask you, do you have two-factor authentication on your corporate email? I see a lot of big companies are doing it, but the small to medium companies aren't doing it. So they orchestrate a wire transfer. The bank picks up the phone and calls this victim at this company. But the problem is they called the cell phone because so many of us are using our cell phones as our work phone. But the bad guys got into their Verizon account because they didn't have two-factor authentication. And they rerouted all the calls. So when the bank picks up the phone to confirm the wire transfer, the cyber criminal answers. And the cyber criminal says, yes, please send the money. And the company's out $400,000. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a typical scam that was happening almost 12 years ago. And it's still the same scams that we keep seeing all the time today. Now, here's the thing that really, I've been going out, when I was with the FBI in Nashville, I saw things starting to change in 2014 that were really bothering me. By the time 2016 came around, I was the town crier. I was the guy with the FBI going around speaking at conferences, telling people that the problem keeps getting worse and worse. And if you see the screen over here, look at the cybercrime numbers. When I retired in 2018, I didn't think the problem could get any worse than it actually did. And look at it. The problem is out of control. So let me ask you a question, and you can get to me in the chat. Do you think, is the problem getting better or is the problem getting worse? Come on, I'm trying to do an interactive talk. It makes me feel better. Thank you, Matthew. Dean, thank you. It's getting worse. Jason, way worse. Oh, this is great. I love talking to people. So let me ask all of you that really are there. This is why I have this chart up on the screen. Thank you, Etalon. Look at how much money we're spending on putting the problem. So let me ask you another question. Look at the chart. The chart keeps getting a lot worse. The cybercrime problem keeps going up and we keep spending more and more money. Think about that for a second. What does that mean to all of you? I want to hear, why do you think the problem is getting worse and it keeps The problem keeps getting worse despite we keep spending more and more money. And I'm looking at the chat over here, so I can multitask. That's why you see me looking left and right. I love everyone who's contributing to this because this is your conversation. So this is what it means to me. It means to me we're throwing money at the problem. Dean, AI is really good. We're going to talk about why it keeps getting worse because it means we're not addressing the problem. So I want to really walk to you really quickly. Why is the problem getting worse? All of a sudden, look at this. In the past 2025, we are looking at a number of major data breaches. 110 million individuals in AT&T. They stole my information. Change Healthcare, based in Nashville. You have nothing to worry about as long as you didn't file a prescription. And 183 million passwords stolen by criminals. And besides stealing passwords, what else did they do? They stole our names, dates of birth, and social security numbers. But they really made one mistake here. They only told us to change the passwords. And that's what really we're going to really talk about. So what I want to do is jump into a poll question here and really ask individuals.
You should be able to see it on your screen. The question is, how confident are you that your employees could spot a phishing or social engineering attack? And it looks like most of the answers coming in are somewhat confident. The second common answer is very confident. I'll share the results here as soon as I end this poll. So it looks like somewhat confident or very confident are the top answers.
Oh, wow. Listen, I don't like the fact that everyone is a little overly confident here because we're going to talk about this, it's all about social engineering and stuff like that. But let's just jump back for a second. And I'm sorry that I messed up the poll question. Dean's talking about AI. Yeah, AI is playing such a role on these different types of social engineering attacks. And we are going to start seeing this, especially during the holiday shopping season. Because what are the bad guys going to do? They're going to hit us up. I'm going to talk about it. Artificial intelligence is available. It's at the fingertips of the bad guys. And it really doesn't take a lot of money to be able to do this. And it can create perfectly crafted social engineering messages, just not only email. We're talking about text messages. We're talking about robocalls. We're talking about all of the different types of attacks. And artificial intelligence is here. And I don't really see artificial intelligence or using it to defend things. I see Derek says we do monthly simulation fisting tests, and that's really good. But unfortunately, from one of the things I learned about that, Derek, is it seems like 8% of employees are responsible for 90% of attacks. And most of them, I hate to joke around, they're probably the C-suite within the organization. And AI is just making it so much easier. So what do we have? We have all this information that's available on the dark web. And now we have the cyber criminals are using this. And I'm sorry, things got a little unformatted here when we transferred it around. But just think about this. All this information exists on the dark web. So let's think about this. There's 110 million AT&T usernames and passwords that are on the dark web. AT&T told us to change our passwords. But what aren't we doing? We're not realizing that 66% of the population is using the same password for multiple platforms. So I want to make this a little interactive here. So there's 110 million AT&T users. What percentage of those AT&T users either have an iPhone, a Mac computer, or an iPad? Take a guess. Give me a number. What do you think? I see 95%. That's pretty good. 85%, 75%. I'm going to be honest. 99%. So for this example, I'm just going to say it's 10%. I know it's somewhere in the guesses that you gave, But what's 10% of 110 million besides a lot? It's like, what, 11 million? And out of those individuals, I guarantee you that those individuals, almost 60% are using the same password for their AT&T platform as they are their iCloud platform. That's what's going on. The AI, they're using it, they're doing automated tools, and they're just ripping through accounts. It's that easy. So the bad guys have that. And think about the work-related accounts. I've seen so many different things, and I'm going to go through this little cyber test over here and really talk about it, because these are the factors. Now, you can read my book all day long, but I'm trying to build something new, because these things over here that we have, and I wrote a really good paper on this, and it's going to be in the platform on what do we need to secure. First of all, let me just go through this and talk about the fact that none of my victims on the personal level froze their credit. Okay? You need to do this today. We'll take questions on that. When I go out and I ask an audience how many people are familiar with two-factor authentication, I'm going to say everyone is. And then I'm going to ask that one question: is your home Wi-Fi secured with two-factor authentication? Now, when I go out and I do this at a conference, anyone want to take a guess? What percentage of the population has their home Wi-Fi platform secured? And what does that mean? I have AT&T. It's going on the phone and securing it. 15%, Matt, that's about right. I'm only getting about 15%. But I guarantee you, for your employees who are working at home, the the bad guys, I apologize. The bad guys are not getting, the bad guys are getting in that way. I had a situation where the bad guys got into a C-suite executive's username and password into their router, and they were able to cause grief. Tell me, what would the bad guys do if they got in to your Wi-Fi? Is your training telling people to do that? The situation that we talked about before, our cell phone account. We need to make sure, if you're using Verizon or AT&T or Cricket, I don't care what you're using, but if you don't have two-factor authentication on those platforms, the bad guys are going to get in. They're going to reroute your calls. And it's the same thing with your iCloud account. Nobody's telling people they need to do this. And that's why it's so important to understand what are your mission critical accounts. So when you get access to the book, you're going to do this, you're going to be able to do it at home. Then you have to do it at work. Because I talk to organizations all the time. So many people are using third-party platforms, and they're outside the world of technology. We're talking about our security, our Salesforce platforms, our HR platforms, our accounting platforms. This is so important. And let me just, I'm sorry about that. And let me just explain to you, I don't even ask people anymore when I do these things to answer these questions, because it is so uncomfortable. I just did a conference for a number of small and medium businesses in Tampa, and you could just see people were changing platforms. I even had to set up a workshop outside in the lobby to teach people how to set it up on their apps, because nobody was doing it. You're going to get this information. You can connect with me through the platform if you need help. This is so important. These are simple things that you could do to prevent that. So between 1998 and 2025, I've interviewed thousands of cybercrime victims. And what did I learn from this? This is what I call the 4 truths to cybersecurity. This is what I've learned in real time over here. The first truth to cybersecurity is that none of my victims ever expected to be a victim. They didn't think they fit the victim profile. They didn't think they had anything that anyone needed. And these are so many reasons why people don't take cybersecurity seriously. It wouldn't happen to me. Every one of my victims did think they fit the victim profile. I once did a talk on the top 25 reasons. And let me tell you, it's so important that you understand that if you have a bank account, if you have an email, if you have a phone, if your kids have a gaming console, you could become the next victim. The second truth to cybersecurity is once the bad guys steal your money or they steal your data or they impact you, the chances of law enforcement getting your stuff back is slim to none. And it's just, and we don't have a magic decryptor key. And the question that I get all the time is ransomware, do we pay the ransom or no? So let's jump in and let me see if I can do this without screwing it up. I'm waiting for my lovely assistant to come up with the poll question, which I don't know if it's the right one or not. Last time it wasn't, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
No worries. Okay, you should be able to see the poll question on your screen. This is poll question number 2, and I'll give folks time to select an answer before ending the results. Has your organization provided cybersecurity awareness training within the past year? The options are yes for everyone, yes for some teams, no, not yet, and unsure. And like I said, we'll just give a few more seconds for the answers to come in. Before I end the poll, it looks like most answers are yes for everyone. The second most common answer is yes for some teams. I'll end the poll and share the results. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
But I'm more curious, what do you think? Do we pay the ransom or do we not pay the ransom? Because unfortunately, hit me up in the chat. What do you think about this? Do you pay the ransom or do you not pay the ransom? I got do not, don't pay. Who else wants to play along in my informal chat? There's lots of reasons why we don't pay the ransom. And I used to tell, that's right, Derek, there's no guarantee you'll get it back. It encourages more crime. But unfortunately, I want you to get this straight. The advice, it is so important to back up your stuff. But backing up does not prevent ransomware. It really doesn't. In today's, the whole point is the bad guys are going to steal your information first, and then they are going to encrypt your network second. Okay. And once they encrypt your stuff, it's really, let me ask you a question. How long can your organization survive without access to your information? Not very long at all. That becomes the problem. So remember, we have to think about the prevention side of it. We have to work with someone, LBMC Technology Solutions, to really get your strategy down together. One of the questions I would always get about when I was with the FBI is, when should a company call law enforcement about a cybercrime incident? And let me tell you, that's not the right question. You should be doing intrusion response planning. You have to plan for the worst. But let me ask you, what do you do when law enforcement calls you and tells you that you have a problem? I want you to think about that for a second. It's a bad day when you have to make that decision. It's a lot worse. So what have we realized so far in our truths? The first truth is no one expects to be a victim. When the bad guys steal your stuff, you're not getting it back. And the third truth to cybersecurity is the chances of law enforcement bringing the cyber criminals to justice is just plain hard. Why is that? Because the bad guys are located overseas. They are located in China. They are located in Russia. They're located in the Middle East. And it's really hard to bring these bad guys to justice. And no matter how hard I tried, it was the same result. I couldn't get the money back. I couldn't put the bad guys in jail. And it really, I'm going to be honest, made me depressed. The harder I worked as a young FBI agent, the more bad people I put in jail, the better I felt. Now I'm dealing with cybercrime victims every single day and I can't help them. So let's get a couple of things straight. The cybercrime problem keeps getting worse year after year. We keep spending more money. The bad guys steal your stuff. You're not getting it back. Putting bad guys in jail is just hard. And like I said, that's a lot of doom and gloom. But I had an epiphany in my career, and I realized that most cybercrime victimizations could have been prevented if my end users were only armed with a couple of key pieces of information. And if I could go back in time, I could have prevented about 90 to 95% of cybercrime victimizations. It's just that simple. So, what are some of these things that are so important that we need to really get through our heads? We need to make sure that we freeze our credit. First of all, I want everyone here to do that. And then we need to realize that social engineering is the number one tool in the cyber criminals tool belt. That's it. And it's a lot more than email. What is social engineering? It's tricking us into doing things we normally would do. And this is one of the new talks that I've been creating is the different ways on that we have to look at social engineering. It's not only just about phishing, it's about smishing. It's about robocalls. It's about QR code phishing. Tomorrow, I am doing a talk based on these 8 different categories of social engineering attacks. Again, there's a white paper that I'm putting into the platform that's going to talk about this. I can go on forever. And what I'd like to do is hit up the poll question now because I've screwed up the last 2 poll questions. So I want to end this on a good note.
Great. Thanks, Scott. So poll question number 3, you should be able to see it. The question is, if your organization faced a data breach today, how ready do you feel to respond effectively? The answers would be fully prepared, somewhat prepared, not prepared, and unsure. And I'll give just a few more seconds for people to respond before ending the poll. Looks like a lot of answers are somewhat prepared. Some said fully prepared and some said not prepared.
And I want to thank people for their honesty with that. And there's a great poet, Mike Tyson, said, a plan is only as good as a plan until you get punched in the face. But you need some type of plan. The other thing here that none of my victims had was the fact that they didn't embrace 2-factor authentication. I know it's a pain. My book is all about that. We need it. You need to have your kids understand it. You need to do that. These are some of the commonalities that I had. I talk about 90% of things easily could be prevented, but the other things you need to work with professionals on. You really do. We're just not spending the money on the right things. And these are just some of the commonalities. They didn't know. I can talk about 2-factor authentication. They didn't know who had access to the crown jewels of the mission critical data. My son, who is just got done with his freshman year, got an internship. He had access to just about everything. Should the intern have access to everything? And let me tell you, do you think they cut my kid's input off when he left? I didn't ask him to check about it, but those are the things that we have to deal with. We have to know who are the admins at our organization because they are being targeted. Do you have any logging features turned off? We talked about the failure on offboarding, and they did not have a plan. That's the whole purpose of our webinars, to get you to understand you need to have a plan and you need to be able to test your plan. So let's go over to our last poll question.
Thank you, Scott. And actually, I'm going to start the Q&A live. So we'll begin that. If there's any one who has further questions about anything that Scott shared, but we don't get to your question today, again, please feel free to reach out to us at info@lbmctech.com. The first question that's come in, Scott, is the person saying, we always hear about how the quote bad guys are using AI for cyber attacks. How do the quote good guys employ AI to help? But with that help, are they as effective as the bad guys?
Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, those playing defense are not doing as great of a job. First of all, it is hard enough for me to get people to convince organizations to embrace two-factor authentication. Embracing different types of AI is good, but if we don't do the things that we talked about, it is that much harder for us. So the short answer is no. And let me just tell you another thing. One of my experiences with AI, let me, I had, or I use, I'm a heavy user of ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to evaluate three, to read three comments that I had. I built a cyber training program for a company, and I had three comments and three documents I asked it to review for me. It came back and it wrote out two comments, and it said, the speaker, which was me, appeared to be very angry during his videotaping, but it's okay because it's an intense topic. And I'm like, angry? I hope I don't come across as angry. And then the other one really hurt. It said, this was the most boring training that I ever took. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm from New York. I'm a little codependent here. I was almost beside myself. And then I asked it, I said, could you pull up the exact pages in this and that of where these comments were? I went over and one of them gave me a location. It wasn't there. ChatGPT up, made up this stuff for me. So that is the problem over here. Can we really trust it? So when we are there, or should we be using ChatGPT for everything? I'm not going to stop. We need to evaluate the results. So let's go on with the next question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. We did have another question come in. It says, why is there such resistance at companies against 2FA/MFA? I know it's a bit cumbersome, but if it's as simple as a text message or Face ID, why not add the extra 5 seconds to protect potential losses in the millions?
I wish I knew the answer to that. If you were to hear my discussion, I'm talking about the same things that I did in 2008. And I understand it. Remember when we showed you the data about all of the companies, the cybercrime problem, a lot of it's impacting regular people just like us. And that's what really concerns me is the small businesses, the individuals, the seniors who aren't putting two-factor authentication. Nobody's talking about this, and I don't understand why. And every time I do these presentations, people ask me, they go, Scott, do you have anything new to talk about? And I go, no, I'm talking about the same thing. And I'm sharing some personal AI stories. So make sure what you're learning here, you're going to share with your friends. You're going to share with your families. I'm going to be honest. I've had a hard time changing corporate culture within organizations, but I'm going to give you everything that I have to keep you and your family safe. And you're going to take that information and you're going to apply it to the workplace. I think we have a couple of more questions.
Yes, we do. Thank you for that last response. If you have any more questions, do feel free to continue to put those in the Q&A. We have just a few more minutes before we'll be closing out today's presentation. The next question, Scott, is what are some common mistakes organizations make during a cyber incident?
They don't know the roles within the organization. They don't have the playbook. They haven't tested the playbook and they think that they can handle it on their own. And I've seen companies try to figure this out on their own, and they have really screwed it up. That's why prevention is so important, but you have to be working with a team. You have to be working with professionals that are going to make sure that you know what are your roles within the organization. That's why these incident response tabletops are really important, or even in the home side, know what to do. And you can take some really simple steps to do it. But listen, I hate to say it, if you want to avoid all victimization, we got to stay off the internet. And it's not happen. So make sure that we're using two-factor authentication across the board. Realize 90% of it could have been prevented, but we have to go that extra step and work with someone like you guys at LBMC Technology Solutions to really build that plan with your clients.
Yes. Okay. So another question that is being asked is, what early warning signs do companies often overlook before an attack?
Oh, that's a good one. What over early warning signs? Let's just make sure that we have trained our employees to understand social engineering. Very important. Have you set up policies in place to deal with social engineering changes? You could have two-factor authentication on your stuff, but what are you going to do when somebody contacts you or your new accounts payable person and they ask to change bank account and routing information? I see this happen all the time. So it's really getting everything. It's what I call having a cyber secure mindset. I encourage everyone to really follow me on LinkedIn. I'm doing videos. I try to do them all 3 times a week, but I do get lost. It's really, you have to realize that this problem is here. This problem is not going away. We have to deal proactively with these things. And remember, we're trying to solve what I consider a people issue with technology. Technology is so important, but do we understand how we need to do this? Now, for everyone over here, jump in if we have any other questions or hit me up in the chat or whatever we want. I want to make the last couple of minutes everyone's opportunity. But here is a copy of the digital and audio, my book. And what I'd like you to do is scan the QR code and go to the website and create an account that it's a cloud-based account. You will log into this and use the coupon code Scott Augenbaum. And you'll also see underneath there's a bunch of downloads, and we're adding some of my 1-minute quick videos because I want to give you everything that you need. People call me all the time, hook up with me on LinkedIn. But if you call me, I hate to say it, I'm almost like hospice for cybercrime victims. My message today is one of empowerment. It's not about fear. It's more about what you should do, who you should work with, and if anything, you don't have to be the next cyber crime victim. On one last little note over here, I want you to really be careful because I just got this from a company about 2 weeks ago. If you ever get a QR code like this, I had a CFO got a QR code in an email, and it was supposed to be from the director of HR. So the email came out, the director took their phone, scanned it, and it said, enter in your username and password to log into the corporate network on your personal cell phone. This guy did that and it tripped the 2FA code, and he logged in. Bad guy stole the username and password. So remember, if you ever get a QR code and it asks you to validate with your email, because emails are linked to calendars, stop. If your company's doing this, there is some risk involved with it. Do we have any other questions?
Thank you, Scott. That's actually all the questions we have for today. I'll just go ahead and close this out. This has been very informative and enjoyable, actually, to really engage each other. I hope this webinar on roles, responsibilities, and cybersecurity testing drills has been informative and valuable to everyone who joined us today. Again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. If you have any further questions or need guidance on how to get started, our team is always available to support and assist you.
And thank you. This was great. I hope everyone got something out of this, and I am really proud to partner with my friends at LBMC Technologies.